When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ludlow, and enjoy today's episode. Hello, folks. Mark Ludlow here at the Fearless Mindset Podcast. How do I send over to you, Brian? Do I sound okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Folks, this is Mark Ludlow, as you guys know, and you're probably tuning in. And this is our, I don't know how many episodes we're at now, but we're on a year and a half of the show. We just bypassed 7,100 downloads in 14 months. I think that's a pretty good sign of support by all you out there. And today we have a special guest. I'm going to call Brian Anderson my Christmas gift to the industry. And we'll be launching this before Christmas. How does that make you feel, Brian?
Lot to live up to.
Lot to live up to. And so, folks, you're going to want to tune into this. You're going to want to be someplace where you're probably just watching Netflix, and you're going to want to hear this story because Brian has a lot of meat, a lot of experience, Marine Corps, law enforcement. He was a motor cop with Santa Ana PD. And he did a lot of undercover stuff, crazy, wild stuff. And then he went into the executive protection industry. And we met 15 years ago in Southern California, where he was working with a very high-profile client. I'll let him discuss that. As you guys all know, I don't discuss my own people that I work for, typically because of non-disclosure agreements. Brian's about ready to go retire in the sunset in Alabama here soon. And he's now in the corporate arena where he's the senior vice president of security for a bank. And I'll let him let you know if he wants to tell you that, but I'll just say a bank for now. And he's got some great stories of operation, advanced work. He's protected some of the highest profile celebrities in Hollywood. He's been around the world many, many times. And this one will bypass any podcast and security you've heard. And Brian's got some personal opinions about training and stuff. We'll do a deep dive in that, but be prepared. We're going to go a while on this. Might be a couple episodes, but also got my T-shirt. We'll be doing a rebranding of my T-shirt as well and putting an American flag on it. We'll be selling them online here soon, so we'll make that announcement. And we got some sponsorship stuff coming up too. And Robert Dodge just called me yesterday. We booked him. He is now the CEO of Peshore Security. I probably mispronounced it. It's a Spanish company. Now he's the CEO of their corporate global risk. And if anybody knows Robert Dodge's name, he's a legend in the corporate side. And so that's coming up in a couple of weeks too. So we have a busy December. So with that all said, if you want to get a hold of me, ludlowsecurity.com. I have a security company and I've done a lot of work with Brian over the years. And I have also a consulting firm. So sorry about the long intro, but we'll get that out of the way. And Brian's got a lot to share. Brian's in his bar there in his patio in Orange County by his pool, relaxing with a cigar on a Saturday. Doesn't it feel good not to be working for some idiotic client out there that's barking orders at you?
It's like a dream. I'm going to correct you on one thing, though. I didn't work Santa Ana PD. I was a gang cop. My wife was a motor.
Oh, my bad.
She did the cool job.
The cool stuff.
Yeah.
Brian and I go back. When did we meet? 2000 and when?
And it's been about 10 years, I think.
Holy crap. Wow.
I was thinking about that earlier. We were working in LA for a company. And I don't remember. Yes. I don't remember the full story. It was a wealthy family. Happened to be Jewish, and they had I don't remember. It was a crazy son that wanted money out of a will or something. And you
Sherman Oaks, right?
Yeah, you were sitting on the house at night, making sure this guy wasn't going to come over, and I came over to relieve you. And we found out we were both Marines, and we started talking, and downhill ever since.
Wow, that goes years ago. Back when I was just getting in the industry, I think, in the corporate side in LA.
I was too. I'd just gotten in about a year prior to that.
Wow. It must have been past 2008 because I was already in the mix and I just got hired on by that company we were both working for. And so, yeah.
I think it was like 2010 or 11 because I left the police. I was still a cop in 2008.
Wow. So, folks, time flies. It's flown by so fast. Now we're 2021, 10, 15 years later, we both aged, as you guys can see. We got some salty experience. Brian looks like he's gone a little gray and, gained COVID weight a little bit.
That's from the industry. That's where I got the gray from.
And, one thing you learned, Brian, from the industry is the work-life balance with family. And you went through hell with the EP industry because you were in such a demand by that one client that you had. You're traveling all over the world and you didn't have a life. And you went through some hard times with your wife and your kids, and you had to make some hard decisions. That was the best decision you ever made in your life.
Yeah, I'll tell you, and for people listening that are deep into this industry or experienced at it and true operators, they understand it. People that are wanting to come into it, that's something everybody needs to know. It sounds glamorous, it sounds cool, and it has its great moments. But being married with 3 small kids at the time, it was difficult. My wife worked full time, was a motor cop and was gone, 4 or 5 days a week without overtime. And we're trying to figure out kids' schedules with in-laws and stuff while I'm sitting on a hotel bed in Japan, getting news from the client that we're not going home that day. And I remember those days of getting everybody's stuff ready, getting the carts in the hotel, loading everybody's luggage up, and standing outside of a door just to have a client come out and go, "Hey, I'm going to stay another day." When your whole life at home is planned around schedules and kids and rehearsals for choir and stuff that you have to be at, and to hear a client say that, I remember going in and sitting on my bed and holding my phone in my hand for about 15 minutes, scared to call my wife because here we go again. I'm the guy that's going to disrupt everybody's life because of my job. But it was a job that I truly loved, and it was a job that I took extremely seriously. I got a lot of opinions on that. I've worked with a lot of knuckleheads. I've worked with some of the best people in the industry. But it's a job that if you don't take it seriously, don't bother getting into it. It will not fare out well for you if you're not serious about your job.
It's almost like you almost have to have reckless abandonment all in. Almost like, as you go in the Marine Corps boot camp, you have to be all in. It's almost the same psychological makeup going through boot camp. You embrace a lifestyle because that's what you want to do. It's in your DNA to protect people. That's what you love to do. And then, you sell, like we talked last night, you sold yourself your soul to the client. You sell your soul to the industry. That's what it takes to be successful. And a lot of guys want, they want to jump on that like big gig. They want to be an EP agent. They want that success now. But it took you years to get there.
I've seen it 1,000 times too, where, you've busted your ass to get into a position, and you got guys that just want to walk into it without putting in the work and make the money that you're making doing it. And let's be serious. You can make a living off of it, but as well as anybody, you're not getting rich from doing this job. You're working around a lot of money, and you'll do decently, especially if you strive to get to that point, with big name clients. You're never going to become rich. You're still chasing money just like every other job. It's and people think they can just walk in and get that big client and they're going to be good. And it's just not that way. I've seen a lot of problem guys come into details, and they're going to be a problem right out of the gate, right? Especially when you're traveling. You got guys that want to go out at night when your shift's over and you put the client up. You're wrong for the business. People just don't know the dedication it takes to work a client like that. I remember dehydrating myself. So I didn't have to go to the bathroom all day because I know we had a busy schedule. And there's no bathroom breaks. There's no telling somebody, "Hey, I'll be right back." So, I'd go back into my room at night or early in the morning whenever we got home, and it was try to hydrate, get something to eat, and recover from those days. So it's that kind of dedication it takes to be successful and to be good at your job.
Yeah, like you said, hydration. You might be on the road, with the client running shotgun, Jay's car or principal's car, and you got to hold it. And all of a sudden, you ate something bad, it's tearing your stomach up, and then you're getting blown up right there in the passenger seat. And you got to tell the driver, "We need to make a stop to go somewhere because I just ate something that didn't agree with me." And you might laugh at this guys and gals that listen to this. You might have to get some adult depends, because if he has issues, guess what? Getting a little older, you start having problems, and this industry starts beating the crap out of you because, like, you can't hydrate. If you drink it all day, like you're supposed to, a gallon of water, do you think you can do that gallon of water and hold that for 12 hours and go pee once? No, you gotta. I've gone 1 meal a day, drinking one little bottle, 1 liter a day, just to get it through detail for 3 months. I've done that because I knew I didn't have a bathroom. And you have your car, and then you're sitting in surveillance on a car, and you got to go pee in the bottle. I mean, I'm just being honest, folks. You don't get the guest house. That estate does not always get the guest house at times. You have to go down to AM, PM, or, "Hey, sir, can I give you $20 to use your bathroom at McDonald's?" if it's not even locked up with a code in West Hollywood, if you're lucky.
I tell you, these are things that if you're a new person coming into this, you don't think about. I think I got a little experience with it because there's no bathroom breaks wearing mop gear. So you kind of learn quickly, how to manage that kind of stuff. But it's a reality. I remember being in Japan on tour. I did a tour with Nikki Minaj, and I was backstage in a small town in Japan, and I was eating the vegetables that they had put out for the catering, and they had chicken and some other stuff. And the guy that I worked with, he was making fun of me because all I was eating was the broccoli. And he's like, are you a vegetarian? And I'm like, no, but I've never had chicken thighs cooked in Japan before. And today's not the day that I'm going to risk having that issue. And he made fun of me, and he grabbed some chicken and filled up his plate. And he bit into the chicken, and it wasn't cooked all the way. It was raw inside. And I laughed at him, and I told him that, these are the things you got to think about, because if you don't, you're right. Next thing you know, you got a bad case of diarrhea. And how does that help your client at all when you can't move? So you deprive yourself of things that are normally a luxury in your day-to-day life. But you're doing it for somebody else because that's what you signed up for. You signed up to protect that person, and you do it at all costs.
It brings back a memory. I was with, Anthony Rodriguez and Mike Cannon. We're down working with we had a high-profile client, person from Asia. It's all over the internet, so I'd probably say Jack Wu, and not a big deal because you can find us on YouTube. Anyway, Jack Wu liked to take everybody out to dinner. So we went to Anaheim, somewhere in Anaheim, some hole-in-the-wall Asian place, and we're sitting there, and my ex-girlfriend says she was a senior executive director at Kaiser Permanente, and she always told me, always check the bathrooms. If they're spotless and clean, the food's going to be great. So I walked into the bathroom. Holy Toledo. It was nasty. I looked at the kitchen. It was nasty. I went back. My partners, the EP guys that I was working with, Mike and Anthony, they're just eating the plate up. And they're, "You didn't eat anything?" "I think I'll have bread." I'm drinking something for bread. That night, they were both in the John on the toilet all night long. I'll save you guys the graphic scenes and verbally, but you can imagine what their night was like. They had both had food poisoning for 3 days. I didn't touch it. I was fine. But those are the things. Like if you're working, protein bar it, peanuts, almonds, or something like that, something that's safe. Because you don't have time to say, "Oh, I'm sick for 3 days," and you just lost $500, $600 a day. So that stuff does happen. And that's something that EP schools don't teach you about on your diet. They don't go into dieting and food allergies to that extent. And
a lot of places don't. I'll tell you what. When I started this venture in my life, I had left the police department, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And it's funny because I look back on now, growing up, I'd watched the movie The Bodyguard, before. I never put any thought into it. It's a movie, it's entertainment. And here I am sitting around 2009, 2010 area, and I'm thinking, okay, I got to change my career path, and I'm going to do something different. And I remember I called my wife; she was at work, and I told her, "Hey, I'm going to go into executive protection. That's what I'm going to do." And she was silent on the phone for a minute, and she goes, "Okay, if that's what you want to do, I'll support you in it, and go do it." So I started looking at schools. I figured, okay, here I come from a police department. I've been to SWAT school, been to investigator school. I've done all this stuff. And my mindset was, well, if you're going to do this job, you better get as much training and knowledge on it as you can. So I found a school up in Ventura. It was a 3-day bodyguard course. And I went to that. And I'll tell you what, there was a bazillion bodyguard courses to look at. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head. ESI, I think, is like one of the big ones.
Right.
I ended up going to this place called Bodyguard Training International. Didn't know anything about it. Called them up. I paid my money, and I went up to Ventura for 3 days. And I remember thinking they had a great training staff at the time, in my opinion. And I met a guy that I always kind of looked up to, and I've reconnected with him a few times over the years of bodyguarding, a guy named Rick Sweeney. I remember being really impressed by Rick. He's got crazy stories. The guy's done ridiculous stuff overseas, contractor, French Foreign Legion. I mean, the dude's just a great guy, but he had a lot of insight and a lot of knowledge. And then the other parts of the staff had a lot of celebrity experience. And I remember thinking, I don't want to use the word cheesy, but I thought some of this is a little repetitive or whatever. As the years have gone by and actually going and doing the job later, I realized it was a great school because they didn't focus on a lot of things that are useless. They focused on day-to-day operations, one-on-one with a celebrity in LA, and how to manage. And they did teach about dehydration and what to eat, what not to eat. Things that at the time I thought were a little goofy. Little did I know later down the road, those things play into your day-to-day operation, right? They did a thing at the end of the school, which was awkward, but it was, they'd have actors come in, people they knew, and you had to take them to the local mall in Ventura and try to be their bodyguard without really being noticed.
Interesting.
And I remember it being so awkward because you're with somebody you don't know and you're tailing them around in the store or right next to them, and you're trying to act like you're normal in the mall, right? And people are looking at you and stuff. Years later, I went to that same mall with a celebrity. And I started laughing at myself because I was doing the exact same thing that I had done in that school. It's just the only difference was everybody knew who I was with. And that's something that if you want to be a bodyguard, you want to go work a celebrity in LA, you're a one-man team a lot of the time. You don't have an advanced team. You don't have a lot of this. You're working for these companies that they barely got enough guys that are good enough to go out and work a celebrity, and you're working in shifts. You don't have somebody that's going to go advance that mall for you when you're driving down the 101 and this person looks at you and goes, "Hey, I want to go to the mall." Like, well, we're going to the mall, and you,
right?
If you can stiff a phone call into security in front of your client, that's the kind of stuff you have to learn to adapt to and roll with, and it's not easy. It's very difficult.
And most of those celebrity clients, they don't want to spend the budget for a team to be advanced. They don't want to spend the money.
We want to go down that road, Mark?
Woohoo! Let's slide it up.
Let's slide it up. The industry is great. The concept of the industry is great. What ruins the industry is a security company.
Oh, ouch. Hard truth.
But you know it's true. You know that is the number one evil of the executive protection industry is the security company. They get the contract. Everybody's trying to lowball everybody. The celebrities management doesn't want to pay too much for security because there's a guy out there that's only charging them like $35 an hour and paying his guys 25.
Oh.
And once that guy gets into business and he works for one big client, they think that's the way everybody works. Right. And so it's a big game of who can pay a decent amount and still make money on the contract, right? And they don't care. Executive protection agents, those companies it's like a puppy mill. They, just keep pumping them out. One guy doesn't work, they'll get another. And that makes the industry hard.
Makes it brutal.
It's very competitive. You got to find. I got extremely lucky. I worked for 2 companies over a 6-year period. That's it.
Yeah, it was good longevity. Yeah, you had a brand name for yourself. You had industry reputation, which was great, and people knew you in the industry knew who you're working for, and that helped you too. And the guy that you worked for was, he gave you a job.
He gave me a job, and I had to manage that. I could have jumped other places. Yeah. Like, I know some great guys. They were 4 different companies at a time, and they're hustling all the time. And one guy,
folks in California, you can do that because a lot of folks don't know this. Like in Texas, you can only work for one company, hang your license under one company in Texas, and different other states are like that. But in California, you can work for multiple companies. But however, in California, you have to be W-2'd as an employee now in California. If you're going to do EP stuff, you're supposed to be W-2'd by the labor laws of California. They changed that. It used to be that way. And everybody's 1099 and all this other stuff. And California goes, there's money to be made on this. Tax, payroll tax. And now the big expenses now, people are like, I noticed a lot of details got shaved off and COVID hit. Everybody got laid off. All these details, everybody went home. Sit home.
Yeah, that was a big thing. I think that started to change when I came into the industry because, a lot of guys were getting 1099s on a day rate, right? Yeah. California law changed so much of that because, one, you're not allowed to be a day rate. Nope. It's got to be an hourly gig.
Right.
And guys were having their own company names and trying to still 1099, and employers couldn't do that anymore. That you had to come on at an hourly wage or they couldn't do it. Where it became a huge issue is the overtime as well, right? I think is what a lot of companies did is they tried to skirt around it and made a deal with you. Like if you were comfortable making $600 a day, and you guys agreed to it mutually, that's what it was then. Back then you could get away with that. I don't know if you can do that anymore. I've been out of the industry for a little while, so I don't know exactly how that works, but you got breaks and you got lunch hours you got to give. I mean, there's so many things that is not conducive to a bodyguard's lifestyle.
Especially in the celebrity world. I mean,
there's no lunch breaks. There's no
people you don't understand. The celebrity world is a different animal than the corporate security. 2 different worlds completely. You're at the mercy. You're like, I call it the adopted stepchild syndrome. Yep, you're the bodyguard, but you're basically adopted stepchild, and they don't want you around anyway. They don't even want to look at you. And I know one principal, if she sees you, she fires you.
I think everything that I've done in the celebrity world and doing the executive protection was great. Going to the private sector and working for a bank, I was given the opportunity to start my own executive protection program, which was harder than I thought, having done the job. But then running that same position is 2 different things. But we did it right. And, I contracted out with a security company and, it was an hourly paid job and they got overtime. And those guys made a lot of money working in the corporate world versus I went back doing the same job for security companies with celebrities, you didn't make overtime.
Nope.
You got your day rate, and that was it. So my thing was, look, I got screwed over numerous times on jobs with both companies that I worked for, but I wanted to make it right when I did my own thing and pay those guys what they deserved and what they were out there actually working, get that money. And they did extremely well. Now that ended not because of me or the team that I had put together, but CEOs and people who own banks, they do their own thing and they messed it up for themselves. So it dissolved my program at the end of the day. But
you went through a lot of stuff. Your first couple of years in that corporate position you got, it's like, holy crap, these C-suite executives were doing some crazy wild stuff.
Yeah, that's a whole different ball game, man. I'm
not going to go into detail. That's probably NDA stuff there, but
we can't get into that. But
exactly. But yeah, holy crap! That was a learning experience for you on how to put fires out on your end from a corporate security side, and all those little fires you had to put out with all those characters and actors. I'll put it that way. And that's something you never dealt with in celebrity world. And it's like, holy cow! But one of your people that you reported to just had little behavior issues, and you had to deal with it from running the security program. So I'll leave it at that.
Right. Yeah. I wasn't expecting. I've seen some crazy stuff in the celebrity world. I thought going into the corporate side, it was going to be a 9 to 5 and easy going gig. And let me tell you, it was not. I had guys that worked for me calling me going, dude, I got nothing to say about this. This is crazy. That you got these young executives with a bodyguard who got a lot of money, and they're keeping them out all night, doing crazy stuff. I had one guy call me in the middle of the night one night.
Yeah.
I wake up and I answer his call, and he goes, dude, I'm playing a game with this guy and his friends on who weighs the most for money. I was like, what? Hey, buddy, you're getting paid by the hour, so put in your game. Yeah, play the game. But didn't see that coming on the executive level.
Right.
I don't think I ever saw the who weighs the most game in the celebrity world.
Wow. Now, as far as training and stuff, I know we mentioned last night on the phone that training, you think there's some legitimate training schools and some other training things that you want to talk about too, because you think training is so imperative to be successful. Training
is imperative to any job, right? You can't be good at your job unless you train for that job. I was fortunate enough to be on a SWAT team, and training is everything to a SWAT team. You can't go execute a search warrant if you don't know how to do a search warrant, right? So to me, I took that same attitude into bodyguarding, and I laugh because there's these schools and they'll charge you a ton of money, and they train you like the Secret Service. You got a team of 8 guys, and this guy's going to open the door. This guy's going to advance the location, and this guy's going to be waiting for you when you get off the plane. And none of that shit happens when you're the celebrity. You might have I think the most I've ever had on a travel team was 3 guys. And I had to beg for the 3rd guy because I've already been through a tour overseas halfway through it, and we couldn't maintain anymore. It was getting too difficult. And we were fortunate enough to get the 3rd guy, and he advanced for us everywhere he went. We had to have 2 people with the client at all times. And this guy just traveled ahead of us and, advanced everything for us. You're not going to see that on a day-to-day basis working a detail in LA. It's
Never.
just not.
Well, the celebrities don't want to pay it. They just don't want to pay that price tag.
Right. You can suggest it all day, right?
Recommendation. Yeah.
You can tell them, hey, this is the way it should work. But you're right. Nobody wants to pay that extra money to make it work the way it's supposed to work. There's a way it's supposed to work and a way it's not supposed to. These schools that we're talking about, you're never going to have a guy, an 8-man team. That's not going to happen. So you have to make do with what you have. And I'll give the companies that I've worked for in LA, we did the best that we could with what we had.
Right.
But it's difficult. You're doing a lot of the advanced work on your own. I remember sitting in, SUVs with an iPad, Google mapping thing, so I could see where the entrance was, the exit was, and try to get a street view. And then that was my advance. Let's go. I was fortunate enough, we'll start it out this way.
Okay.
Last night, you and I had a long conversation, and I told you that, hey, I'm retiring. I'm leaving the industry and stuff in 7 months. And
right.
I'd be a little bit candid in this. I'm not a guy that, all these years I'm pretty guarded about. Outside of family and friends, I'm pretty guarded about who I work for, right?
Sure.
And I will always believe in that. These people hired me to protect them, right? But fuck it. Let's get into it a little bit.
Okay, folks. This is a decision for Brian that Brian made personally for himself. Just as a disclaimer, this is Brian's experience personally. I have nothing to do with this. He wants to do this for a reason, as a teaching point to the executive protection agents getting in the industry so they can understand the reality of the business. So I have no experience with Brian, with this client. I never worked for that client. And so I just make a disclosure. For myself, because I'm still in the industry, I will always honor my non-disclosure agreement. But however, Brian's leaving the industry, so it's totally his call. So I just want to make that disclosure. I respect Brian as an industry leader, and he's been through crap. He's seen a lot of crap. And so Brian has the freedom of speech on this platform, and he can say whatever the heck he wants. So with that said, Brian, the floor is yours.
I only have an NDA, I believe, currently with my employer now.
Roger that.
All my past ones are gone.
Okay.
And
so Brian has some stuff to share.
I got into this industry, believe it or not, off of Craigslist.
Wow.
When I made the decision to do this, and I talked to my wife, I was looking for jobs, and I figured, okay, maybe I'll go work some security stuff and see how it is. So I applied to a job working night security in Calabasas. Got a phone call back, went up and interviewed with this company, and I got accepted to the job. I thought it was really weird. Nobody would tell me what I was going to be doing. I think that intrigued me a little bit.
Sure.
Right? Like, what's the worst thing that can happen? I can go up there. I don't like it. I go back. I mean, so I started at, I think at 8 o'clock at night. I remember it was like during the wintertime, so it was dark. And the guy who owned the company was going to meet me at this house.
Yeah.
And so I roll up having no idea what I'm going to do. And keep in mind, coming from law enforcement, I'm thinking, God, man, I'm going to go work some night security job. This is kind of silly. I call him when I get to the gate, and they put me through, and I said, okay, which house is it? And he goes, you can't miss it. It's going to be lit up like Six Flags. What the hell am I getting into? So I drive around the corner. I see this house on the corner of the street, and it is decorated for Christmas, like the Griswold house. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I roll up, and I see this guy who I did the interview with. He walks me through the job. Doing residential security at night at this house, and ended up being Britney Spears' house. So I thought, okay, I mean, I didn't listen to her music. I don't know who she is really. I've seen her in music videos at the time. I mean, that's about it. And so, okay, that's kind of cool. I ended up staying at that job for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. And I went from the guy who, walked around her house at night to predominantly spending my day to day with her for 3 or 4 years. I did take a break. It was a little extreme, that account. And I needed a break. And I remember driving home one day, and I had it. Like, that account was a lot, right? And everybody that watches the news in the last 2 weeks knows that account was probably a lot to handle. And I'm driving home, and I was talking to the guy that owned the company, and I was telling him, man, I don't know how much longer I can maintain here. And he goes, hey, I got a simple solution for you. I got a celebrity going on tour, and you're going to go to Australia, Japan, all these different countries, and you'd be gone for like 6 months. So now I'm thinking, okay, look, I got some decisions to make. I got to, one, tell my wife that. Two, make all those plans to leave for that one to go on a tour. I made the decision on the phone right there. I was like, yeah, let's do it. Get me out of here. And that, folks, is where you got to be careful what you wish for.
Because so many people they're so hungry, they want to make that name for themselves. Immediately they get in on a detail, and they're so salivating at the bone to get that opportunity, but they haven't paid the price. They don't have those experiences to be successful like you would and get that offer right then and there. And these young guys, having not the experience, they may fall flat on their face and make mistakes from day one.
Yeah, it was even for me, look, I had no international experience at the time. When I was with Britney's team, I was fortunate enough to start out as the advanced guy on a tour in 2011. And I loved it. I loved being the advanced guy. That was a great position when I look back on it. But when you're doing that advanced guy stuff, you're looking at the guys who were with her, one-on-one, and you're like, that's the spot that you want to get to, right? That's what job's about. Then I went on tour, Nikki Minaj, and man, I wish I'd been that advanced guy again on Britney's tour. I was so like, man, this one-on-one stuff, it's harder than you think. And then when you get overseas, it's a lot harder, right? I quit that tour in China. It's towards the end. I was in the Beijing airport, and she was a very volatile client to work for, and I quit. As soon as I hit U.S. soil, I told her we were done.
You told Britney you broke up with her?
I told Nikki we broke up.
Oh, Nikki Minaj. Okay.
Yeah, that's where I say be careful what you wish for, right? I left one to go to another and had no idea how volatile that was going to be. But I gained so much experience being able to travel the world and being an EP agent. It's priceless. You learn a lot. Going to a foreign country where nobody speaks English, you're forced to adapt and overcome. That's what we say in the Marine Corps, right? You adapt and overcome your situation, and you make it work if you're successful. I actually got put on that tour because a guy was unable to do his job. So they picked me up. I was lucky enough to get picked up because this guy, didn't take his job seriously, and he had some off-duty issues. He had some on-duty issues, and they picked me up and put me in the spot. And let me tell you, that was a no joke tour. We were busy and running, Japan, Australia, London. We were hitting a wide gamut of locations. That two guys, that's all we had. Two guys for most of that tour to do that. So we would just, we would play leapfrog, basically. One guy there was no hierarchy in the executive protection side of it. We were both eating the same dirt. So it was like, we'd take turns. You stay with her, and I'll advance the next location, and we would leapfrog that way. Matter of fact, the guy I did that with, he was a great guy, and we would get an R who was going to do the advanced jobs so you could get away from the client. But it was a good time, but it was a lot of work, a lot more than I had anticipated at the time. And then you of it, there's no calling it, in the middle of the job. But it was a good learning experience. And when I talk about and use somebody's name, I'm not trying to name drop anything. All of this stuff is out on YouTube. All of this stuff is, social media platform stuff. Me with these people, there's no secret to.
Yeah, I've seen you on TMZ. You've been everywhere.
My wife, my wife makes jokes about it. You should interview her. She's probably better at this than I am, but she used to keep track of me off of TMZ.
Is it true? Is it true that Britney's team? I don't know if this is true, but I've heard that a lot of celebrities will have their publicists call the paparazzis ahead of a movement, let them know they're showing up. Is that kind of true?
They didn't do that with her because we were very guarded on that account. Obviously, from anybody can surmise from watching the news and stuff that was a very controlled account. It was nothing got done without approval from the very top all the way down to me, right?
From the dad down, right?
Right. You didn't make a movement without management being involved in anything.
So Jamie had really full control of Britney's management, her business, and everything under the conservatorship. He controlled everything for her.
Yeah, and he was the guy. I mean, my personal experience with him, he was a nice guy that I had to deal with him, and I dealt with him a lot. And but it came from the top down, right? You didn't make a movement. They didn't want. I mean, our biggest evil in that account was the paparazzi. I've been with clients that have called the paparazzi on themselves, right? Which is ridiculous.
How it works. That's how the entertainment works down there.
And it causes havoc for you as an EP agent out there working in the field, right? Like having somebody call, and it's crazy enough, let alone now you got to deal with, they know where you're at and they're coming. And navigating that is an issue. But yeah, in that account, nobody ever called paparazzi. It was a very try to keep them away. But I remember every house that she lived at, you would drive out and there'd be a line of them waiting for her car to come out. I used to drive her in my car a lot. Nobody's looking for Britney Spears in a Nissan Altima coming out of a neighborhood, right?
Never.
I had bought this Nissan Altima just to do my driving to, and it ended up being a big mode of transportation for her. And that car eventually went to my oldest when she got her license. So it was always a big joke. She would tell her friends, like, yeah, my dad used to drive Britney around in this car. Nobody would ever believe her. Like Britney Spears in a 2011 Nissan Altima. Like, yeah, whatever, kid. But it was true. That's how we protected her from paparazzi a lot, is get her out of locations and something that you wouldn't expect her to be in. So, they're waiting. They knew the cars that she drove or that we drove that belonged to her. They so, hey, you want to get to a location without paparazzi? Take your personal car and drive her.
Smart move, though. Covert. Nobody expected it.
No, nobody saw it work. And I remember those days of driving out in her car, and you just watch them start doing U-turns, and they're going to follow you to wherever you're going. And those are impressive, man. I tell you, if anything that I hate in the world is paparazzi guys. They are the worst to me. And really, kind of, who wants to do that for a living? These guys would chase us on the freeway, let alone in the middle of downtown LA. It's hard enough to drive down there anyway, let alone now you're getting tailed by 6 cars that just want to get photographs and running up and, trying to get in your window. That was havoc with her. She's the paparazzi queen. And dealing with that was probably the hardest thing in that camp for us to deal with, was the constant surveillance of paparazzi.
It's almost weird that they have a surveillance team watching you guys just for media, so they get their money in the media photos or videos and sell it to whoever's the buyer of that. And that's your own set of problems. And then the EP side, social media, you got to watch your client on their social media. If they start checking in and tagging themselves in different locations, boom, you just gave your position away. How do you control these influencers in Hollywood?
And that's something you bring that up. To me, that is like the worst thing an EP agent can do. Is you're out working with a client, you stay off social media platforms. You don't want people knowing where you're at. It could be your personal Facebook, but you don't tag yourself in locations and do stuff like that. I mean, I
see a couple. One guy we both know in Southern California. He takes selfies everywhere he goes, all over the world. And I don't say anything. I'm not going to say names. I'm not going to give him that honor because it's dishonorable to the business. But yeah, he'll take pictures of himself somewhere with whoever his client is. I'm like, really, dude? I know where you're at. If I want to do a hit on you, I got you.
There's a lot of those guys in this industry. I mean, that's the world we live in today, right? Is social media,
right?
And everybody wants to put stuff up and show stuff. My social media, I'll do a memory from 10 years ago with me with a client order, but I don't work for that client anymore. Right. And it's my personal page. But yeah, when you're putting it out there to everybody where you're at while you're working, that's an operational risk, in my opinion. Just like any other job, you wouldn't do that in the military. You don't do it, in the law enforcement world. Why would you do it in the executive protection world?
Well said.
Getting your picture taken while you're out with a client. I've never looked for that before. There are guys in the industry that want to have their picture taken with a client. I just happen to work for clients where it happened. I had one client that I took to Vegas. We were going to a casino, and before we left, we were talking in a hotel about our daily plans. And when she said that she wanted to go to this casino, I asked her, "Hey, do you want to go in the front door or do you want to go in the back door?" She asked me, "What's the back door?" I said, "Well, we're going to go through the kitchen area. We're going to have to walk by some dumpsters, and we'll come in through the service elevator, and then we'll take you up and get into the casino." And she goes, "Well, let's try that." So we're through with no issues. And her comment to me later was, "Why has nobody else ever done that for me before?"
Wow.
Well, because you're usually with guys that want their picture taken with you. That defeats the whole purpose of
our
job. You give them the different option. Given the option, I don't want to take anybody through the front door.
No, never.
So it's just different. You've met those people, and anybody know those people. That it's all about them. It's not about the client. And that's the world we live in today. And there's nothing you can do about that.
So true. So true. And I think because we've gone through COVID and all that, not a whole lot of people are doing EP work right now. So everybody's like, well, what do I do now? How do I make my money? How do I stay relevant?
Yeah, that's got to be very difficult. I'm glad I'm not in the industry. It was hard enough when we were in it.
Yeah.
You're always, people are always looking for that next gig. And it was difficult. I'm sure you still, I still get text messages. Back then They were, coming through all the time. Hey, there's a detail here at this time, paying this much. And people were jumping on them left and right. And it was people climbing over each other to get to them. I was very fortunate. I didn't do that. I was lucky enough to have full-time positions at both companies that I worked for. I was very grateful for that, especially having a family. But I understand the struggle too. I know the guys that, like I said, one of the guys that is like my mentor in the industry. He's the hardest working guy I've ever met. I met him when I was on an account, Johnny Depp's account. Johnny's who I ended my celebrity side with. And this guy was the hardest working individual I ever met, and still is. And during COVID, he changed up the way he did things so he could continue working. But he really is one of the hardest working guys I've ever met. And one of the smartest EP guys that I've ever got the pleasure to work with. He's excellent at his job. I can't say enough about the guy, but he was one of those guys. He would work a night shift at our gig and then double back in the morning and take somebody somewhere else. And just work his life that way. It was crazy to me watching him, but he's got a great rep. And when they travel overseas, that's the guy that they take. I'm fortunate when I started my own detail, when I was working in the corporate side, he came and worked for me.
Did he? Oh, good.
And he made it very easy for me, and he was, a strong operator. But when he wasn't working for me, he was working for other clients. Yeah, that's just the way he is. And he always had, his theory kind of was always, when you stop responding to those, they're going to stop asking you at some point.
True. Good point. Go find somebody else to fill it.
Right. And he wouldn't let that happen. And again, like I say it 100 times, I was very fortunate not have to do that. And I couldn't, not with a family. I couldn't have worked all those gigs at once. It just wasn't going to happen.
What was the big reason for you leaving Britney? Was it just a more balanced, stable life for your kids as they were getting to high school and taking that corporate position? I can't remember if you took on that corporate position you have now, or if you I think it was a little in between there. You decided to leave and you had enough and you wanted balance.
So the way that worked was I had already left her. I had Johnny's account at the time. And that was starting to ramp. A lot of travel coming up, and that's as a family, we had to make a decision. That corporate job had presented itself to me, and I decided to get out at that time. It was solely to avoid traveling for a movie.
Oh wow!
Because I would be home for like 3, and it just wasn't an option at the time. And I'm very fortunate that the job that I got, I'm still at, and it's worked out. That was a tough time because that was a great job. I loved doing it. But it just became unmanageable for me. And I think, I know a lot of guys in the industry that, another guy that I look up to as far as his dedication to executive protection, and he's single.
Mm-hmm.
And that works for him. Even having conversation, he gets burned out on it, right? And he doesn't have a family to answer to. But his personal time and his own relationships with other people and his family, it's tough on him at times. But he doesn't have the same worries either that I did. And he and I worked at one account together. And he was a great operator, but he didn't have the same issues that I had. And I remember the guy that owned that company was another good dude who I think he got frustrated with me a few times because I would have family requests. I would need some time off to go do stuff with my family. And years later, we reconnected, and he now has a family of his own and understands, like, wow, I had no idea what you were going through at the time. But the struggle became real for him at some point when he realized, hey, I got 2 small kids now and a wife at home, and it changes the ball game of you being gone like that.
Absolutely. What was the what were the great experiences and moments you had with Britney?
There's so many in that, because I was cutting my teeth on this big celebrity. Look, I started with her working nights at her house. I didn't even see her for like 4 months. Never saw her. I'd get there, after dark. I would leave in the morning, and I'd see these guys come in working her, during the day and taking her places, and I'd hear stories and stuff, and I wanted to get to that point, and it happened by mistake. Somebody couldn't come to work.
Oh wow!
And they needed somebody to stay, so they asked me to hold over, and if I could go, do this detail with her, and I did, and it, like, how it works, right? And I've had this, I've seen it 100 times. You put a new guy on a detail close to a client, mm-hmm. for whatever reason it is, they don't like that person.
Yep.
You're done. You're gone. You're not going to see that client again. And that's just the way it works. So I had that explained to me, right out of the gate that morning is, hey, you're going to go do this. And if it doesn't work out, you're kind of done.
No union protection, nothing to protect you.
No, I was worried, like, shit, I'm talking to myself. Don't make eye contact. Don't say anything. Don't do anything that'll make the client, weary of you. Things went well that day. And I would say over that next year, that was it. I got moved to working days over there. And then within no time, I was one-on-one with her on a day-to-day basis. Now, the only experience I had during those 4 months where the company had another time, and I was with her, and it was Lindsay Lohan. So I would spend time with her. So kind of doing that on the side of, and then working my way up to be, with Britney. Those were some crazy days.
I can imagine. To be a fly on the wall to see what happened.
I'll share this story. My favorite.
How's your Wi-Fi connection over there?
What's that?
How's your Wi-Fi connection?
Is it a problem?
It's kind of staticky a little bit on our end.
I don't know.
Okay, just check. Before you get into a good story, I don't want the audience to miss it. And the audience, if you're listening, this is Brian Anderson talking. Brian Anderson, Marine Corps vet, retired medical cop, did a bunch of crazy wild stuff as a police officer. He worked SWAT, and he just told the audience that he covered Britney for quite a while. He mentioned Johnny Depp and then Lindsay Lohan. And Brian is kind of not a tell-all, but he's just sharing his experiences with the up-and-coming male and female executive agents. Sorry, I need to get some hot chocolate here so I can talk. So Brian's just trying to give some advice. The reason why he's giving this advice is because he sees the industry going through changes, and there's so much the newcomers in the industry don't know. And Brian just wanted to share his experience and knowledge and pass it down to the younger generation that are coming in the EP industry. And there's a lot of things not being taught or mentored or coached within these schools, and he feels this is one way to offer advice and to help out the younger generation coming in the industry. It's not to do a tell-all or, disclose some confidential information or whatever. Not at all. Brian, respects the family. He respects the client. And if you noticed in the podcast, he has not mentioned the name of any companies. We've done that for a reason. There's a reason for that. And you can figure that out. So this is Brian Anderson. And if you're just joining us, this is Mark Ledlow, the Fearless Mindset podcast. And Brian just sharing his journey in the celebrity world in Los Angeles, from Marine Corps vet, SWAT team, celebrity protection, which is a totally different animal from corporate security. And if you want to know more, email me, mark@ledlowsecurity.com, or check out my website. I have a security company. I service many clients, and I have a lot of NDAs, so I'm not allowed to discuss that, but I service clients all around the country. And we do that, and I do business coaching as well. So with that said, with a little intermission there, Brian, I think you got your Wi-Fi fixed, so feel free to share.
All right, so this is my favorite story because I was new to the industry, very new, and I got to go. I got to do a photo shoot with Lindsay at a hotel in LA, and we go, and there's a lot of drinking involved. There's a lot of things that, if anybody knows this is 2011, so. There was a lot of legal issues and stuff going on. That's all public knowledge, and not divulging anything anybody doesn't know about. And I made a suggestion, as you do as an executive protection agent, on advancing the restaurant after the photo shoot to eat at. Nobody wanted to hear any of that. We got, I won't say an argument, but I think I got pushed to the side as the EP guy, like, hey, you don't know what you're talking about. And I don't want you involved in my social life. We're going to go eat at this restaurant and hotel, and you're going to live with it. And matter of fact, I don't even want you sitting near the table. You can stay in the lobby. So, this is my first time dealing with this. And I'm a little upset, like anybody would be, like a little jaded, right? And you could even say, maybe I was acting like a baby. Fine. You want to go sit at the table? You want protection? So I'm sitting in the lobby, pouting, not really know how to deal with this. And then I came back to my senses a little bit, right? And I go, hey, you're getting paid for a job. Go. If that person wants your help or not, go do your job. So I look around the corner, and I see a guy that's not within the party talking to her. And so I go walking over there, introduce myself, and tell him, hey, whatever you got going on, it's not wanted here. I could see the distress that she had. And I said, whatever you got, you can take it back to your table, and we're good without you being here.
Wow. How'd that go?
Not well. The guy looks at me and he goes, you don't know what you got yourself into. He goes, I'm going to have my wife come talk to you. And I'm like, whatever, buddy. You can go have a seat, enjoy your dinner. Nice talking to you. So I can actually see the relief with her. I grab a seat and I'm sitting at a table. Mm-hmm. It's a very odd group of people sitting at the table. You got makeup artists, you got a celebrity comedian sitting at the table, and the photographer for that day sitting at the table. It was about a 8 to 10 group table. So as I'm sitting there, I see this woman charging over to the table. And I saw, actually, because it was Kirstie Alley. I didn't know that was the wife of the guy who I just dismissed. And she wants to fist fight me in the restaurant. And
Kirstie Alley wanted to fight you?
Oh, yeah. I don't know what to do. I stood up and she's yelling at me and got her hands up. And it turned into a melee inside this restaurant. And I got so many things going on now. I got Kirstie Alley wanting to fight me, which I'm in awe over because I grew up watching Cheers. So I'm like, holy crap, dude, Kirstie Alley is trying to fight me. This is a chick from Cheers. Like, what's going on right now? And then as that's going on, I got this comedian sitting at the table making fat jokes. And so it's a comedian that I like. So I'm actually kind of trying to listen to him, deal with what I got going on. And then at the same time, the makeup artist passes out at the table and falls on the floor.
Oh, wow.
As all of this is going on, the manager comes up and gets behind me and says in my ear, you got to go. Your whole party's got to go. So now I'm coordinating with a driver. I grab my client who tells me the makeup artist has to come with us. So I'm dragging that person with me while all this is going on out to the front. We get into an SUV. The makeup artist needs to throw up. The driver tells me that's not happening in my car and he wants to stop. And I'm like, we are not stopping. We're getting out of here. We got paparazzi behind us. And he goes, well, you need to figure that out on your end. So I got my gear bag in the car, which is a pretty expensive 511 bag at the time. And I dumped it out and it became a receptacle for the makeup artist to throw up in for about 30 minutes on the way home. And I successfully got everybody home. I got my car and I'm driving home, and like this is my first real EP experience in LA. And I'm like, holy crap, did that just happen? All of that just went down at one time. And yeah, I couldn't even like process all of that at once. And I'm like, wow, what did I get myself into with this job?
The ability to function in utter chaos.
Right. And then it became normal.
It does. Their chaos is your new norm in work. And that's such a reality.
During that time, I started taking her, Lindsay, to court a lot in LA. And I remember, I picked her up in the morning with the driver. We went to court. And it was the first time I ever experienced, we pull up. I've never seen that many photographers. I've never seen, when I got out of the car and I opened her door, the clicking of cameras sounded like gunshots. It was so loud and so many. And you're trying to walk through that crowd. Luckily, it's a courthouse. So you have LA County sheriffs that had, pushed a hole through all of that. And people were respecting that. But the sounds of the clicks of the camera are almost undescribable. I'd never seen anything like that. It was crazy at the time. Again, not speaking out of school. I mean, all that stuff was on the news every day.
Right.
And that was the first.
Go ahead.
That was the first time my kid had ever seen me on TV before. Was I picked her up. I took Lindsay to court.
You were with Lindsay? Holy crap, Dad.
I dropped her off, drive back to Orange County, pick up my daughter from school, do the rounds like any parent does, get home, turn on the TV, and I'm standing there with my daughter, and she's like, is that you on TV? And I'm like, yeah. It was interesting. But kind of cool, when you're a dad and your kid gets to see you, in that environment.
Sure.
They didn't know until later how much havoc that was for me and stuff. But
so much stress.
It was a cool experience. Yeah, that's how I cut my teeth. That was like my initial dump you into executive protection and see how you handle it. I actually worked for her quite a few times. We got along. She requested me a couple of times for certain gigs. And that ended just because, it had nothing to do with me. It was, contractual with the company and her management company and stuff like that. But
usually the case with these celebrities, their managers don't want to deal with whatever security company is servicing that contract for that client. There was a fallout, pricing, bill rate, whatever.
It's always pricing, dude. I'm convinced.
Is it?
I'll tell you, when I worked that detail, we did a music video in LA, and the production company, you know how that works is, you got the celebrity, they have to have security. It's part of the contract that when they're filming and stuff, they have security. Originally provided her with some off-duty LAPD guys and gals, actually. So I got a very strong opinion on that.
What is that opinion?
Coming from law enforcement, you would think that I would have a different opinion. Because you wear a badge and you protect the day-to-day citizens of whatever city that you live in, does not qualify you to be a executive protection agent, a professional executive protection agent. Just because you got a gun and a badge does not qualify you to do that job. If you've never trained to do that job, been to any kind of schooling, worked with other people, then you can do set security. But to manage a celebrity, I don't think you're qualified unless you've gotten outside training. That's my personal opinion. People that carry a badge and a gun that do it. I just feel that I've seen a lot of bad cops in the EP business.
Okay, fair enough.
Good ones, but my personal experiences was it's guys that are getting free food at the catering truck. And I've actually seen guys stay late on a gig to take the extra food home. That's the most unprofessional thing I've ever seen in my time doing this job. So just because you did that job doesn't mean it qualifies you to do this job, right? You can take a guy off of the street or a guy out of the military and you can train him to be an executive protection agent. I have no issues with that. But the ego that comes with some of those guys, a lot of security companies don't like them. It's just the way it is. I actually preferred not working with some of them because it's not the same job. You have to let that job go and be a different person at the EP job. It's a different mindset. So, that's my opinion on that. But during that video shoot, she had some LAPD guys and gals that were protecting her. And then my company got the phone call that they wanted me to come in and kind of take that over. So that was a huge thing for me at the time, being new into the business. And it spurred me to push harder, to be better at my job. If you got somebody calling you and asking you to do something, that was a big deal for me at the time. And I think that kind of helped push me to started going to extra schools and doing different trainings and stuff to be better at what I was doing. The LAPD guys didn't like that too much, but that's what it is.
Right. Yeah, it always seemed like when I was down there trying to break in the industry, I was always competing with retired or active duty cops. And I was from Oregon, I was a reserve cop up there. I would always get the graveyard shift when nobody could see me. And then later on, I found out if you wanted to have longevity on a detail, the graveyards are the ones stage the ship to pick because no one sees you and nobody wants that shift anyway.
That is very true. And that's true. A lot of these companies, look, and I'm going to say this too. Do you need a CCW to do this job?
Nope.
Not really. Did I have one? Yes, because you could get more money per hour with that, right?
Sure.
But, especially back in that time frame, it was hard to get a CCW for a lot of people, right?
Sure.
You
Right.
had to have a cause, and bodyguarding wasn't really a cause back then.
No.
So it made it very difficult, but you could make more money by getting one. So that's why I think cops got a lot of work, because they could carry off duty, make them necessarily good at what they're doing though. And you're right. You get those graveyard spots, but yeah, that's a good gig because nobody wants that. And you can maintain, making money by picking up those jobs that nobody wants. I don't recall at any time working with anybody where there was an active duty cop that was a number one guy for a celebrity.
Never.
I've worked a lot of accounts where they're the residential security, or they're the number 3 guy on a detail or something. But, I've never seen it where they're out. And I'm sure it happens. I'm not saying I just, with the accounts I was on, I've never seen that. And I know the guys that the first company that I worked for, they were kind of anti former law enforcement or active duty law enforcement. He wasn't a fan of hiring those guys at all. The second company I worked for, he was a lot more pro law enforcement. And I can't say that was a great decision on his part, because he was giving jobs to friends, that he knew. And it was a problem.